Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brothers Take podcast, where in this week's episode, we are going to be giving our take on Alien Romulus, the latest entry in the long-running Alien franchise. My name is Chris. I am joined once again by my brothers Adam.
Hello.
And Eric.
Hello.
And, as I've just said, we are going to be talking about Alien Romulus, and there's going to be a couple of segments to this. First, we are going to start with a non-spoiler review for the movie of just our thoughts, because it's fairly new. Not a lot of people have actually probably gone out and seen it yet, or certainly not everyone who wants to see this movie has gotten the chance to see it. Then we're going to get into the spoiler discussion, because we also want to talk about the specifics. The specifics were the best. So we'll let you know when we're getting into the spoiler discussion. We'll give a fair warning in case you're someone that hasn't seen the movie yet and you've just heard the non-spoiler part. That's where you can duck out and maybe come back once you've seen the movie. Or for those who have already seen the movie, you can, skip right to the spoiler part if that's what you want to do with the timestamps in the description below. And then at the very end of the episode, we are going to follow up on last week's episode where we ranked the entire Alien franchise. We gave a Brothers Take ranking. And we are going to discuss amongst us where Alien Romulus would rank in the Alien franchise. So that's our plan for this week's episode. But as always, we want to hear from you guys too. So if you guys have watched this on YouTube, you can jump down into the comments at any point to share your take on Alien Romulus, or your take on our take on Alien Romulus, if you like. Whether you agree with us or disagree with us, please do let us know. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, ring the notification bell for all future content. To those of you listen to us on audio platforms, you can also touch base on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and X at The Brothers Take, again, to give your take on Alien Romulus. But without further ado, let's jump into it. Okay, so starting with the non-spoiler review, which is always the part that Eric finds fucking impossible.
Yeah.
Finds it so hard to review something without, spoiling it. But so with that in mind, I want to come to you first, Eric, actually, because
I was really hoping you actually wouldn't. I was really, really hoping you wouldn't come to me first, because I was hoping that you would talk first, and then I go, okay, that's what I'm allowed to talk about.
Oh, what? That gives you the parameters of what a review can be?
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll just be like, it was a movie, and there was special effects present. Although, speaking of special effects I thought were really well done. Sure, there was moments where you could go, well, that's animatronic right there. But I did like that they had animatronics in it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a nice callback to some of the older movies, and definitely not overly relying on CGI for things. I think the alien in it is the xenomorph is fully kind of costume animatronic sort of stuff, very practical effects. Probably a bit of a CGI at moments, but I think they relied a lot on that stuff, which is really nice. I liked as well having a cast that I don't know who the hell any of these people are. So
Sure.
it's like so there's no like, oh, there's Chris Hemsworth. Well, I know he's gonna live, or whoever, so I never knew who really was going to die at any point.
Right.
Anyone could die at any point, and quite for an alien movie that they went some places with some of the gruesome or the gore or the kind of explicitness of it,
Right.
which I quite liked. So I was like, ooh, boy. What else can I talk about?
Did you like the movie?
I enjoyed it.
Good place to start.
Thanks, Chris. I felt that the third act was the weakest.
Okay.
I think that's something I mentioned before, though, isn't it? That I think alien movies in general haven't really nailed the third act, have they? Or actually, a hidden fourth act, actually. I don't know if you'd call it the third act. It's almost like a hidden fourth act, nearly, isn't it?
Sure.
In alien movies?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
I don't know
but
if any of them have actually made a... Oh, that's a great one.
No, I know what you mean. But I just think it was a bit... I've actually talked about the whole third act. I think was just a bit kind of messy. But I liked the premise and motivation for the characters to be in that situation, and even for their reason to stay. Because I think, what was it? Jordan Peele always has that kind of thing. When he's watching horror movies, why don't you just get out? So when he
Right, which
made
is why he
Get
made
Out,
the movie Get Out. Yeah.
Get Out, right? And this, it's they do try, and it
Is
doesn't
that
go
the
to
same
plan.
premise as like the shark pool scenario? It's like just don't get in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pool. Just
Yeah, just don't get
stay
in the
out.
Don't
pool.
get in the pool. Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So I
That's
like
funny.
the I preferred the kind of premise and the first two acts to the third act
Right.
of
Okay.
it. I think they did a much. It's almost like better with less aliens. I find than when if there's more or anything
I don't
like
know what you're
that.
talking about.
Um, I really like the facehuggers. I think this is the first time facehuggers are like a new level of scary in this movie.
Sure.
Someone else take over. I don't know what the fuck to talk about.
Okay, I gotta take over that for a second.
Thank you.
Okay.
Why
So
did you come
what
to
I'm
me?
gathering from you is
Why
you
do you
like
come to me?
what I'm gathering from you is you like the movie, but you didn't like the third act.
Yeah.
Fair enough. The reason they're gonna come to me next is because I want to leave Adam to last. Right.
All right.
I really enjoyed the movie. But I did come out with conflicted feelings after watching it, and I was like, I'm gonna have to sit with that. I'm gonna have to think about it a bit. And it's not like say when you come out of Prometheus maybe, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to think about like the ideas. Like I'm not sure
Hmm.
if I agree with the ideas. It was actually that I think I love all of the ideas. It was execution that I had to sit and think about. I was like, hmm, I don't know if I like how that was done, or it's like, man, that really threw me off. Like that,
Hmm.
like in terms of like the actual presentation on film, or even there was times where the script annoyed me. There was times where like dialogue or the placement of dialogue really annoyed me. Which I'll get into when we get into the spoiler part. So I do think that this movie could have been a better written movie. Um, but I really enjoyed the movie. I liked the movie more than I disliked the movie, but I do have problems with the movie. Um, and that's kind of as much as I could say now, really. But I'm really curious what you thought, Adam, because being the biggest Alien fan here, and also me and Eric were watching the movie. We went together to see it,
Hmm.
and at the end, we turned to each other, and we were like, "Adam's either gonna hate this or love this," and we are not sure. It could go either way.
The
Like,
answer is
it could
yes.
honestly go either way. Like we're like, is it both? Is it like
It's
I
like
hate and love this movie as I hate and love myself? Like, is it?
I certainly don't hate the movie. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot. Um, but yes, I think, and that's dialogue that I think we're hearing across the board. There's like, I think everyone has kind of issues with some parts of the film, and I think
Sure.
it's probably going to be some of the same issues that people are going to have
Right,
issues with,
okay.
actually.
Because I'm not sure.
I'd
I haven't like
imagine.
looked into what a lot of other people are saying.
Yeah, I
And
was
like I
curious
don't know
to.
if I'm alone in this, or I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah, I was
Right.
curious to look
So,
in and just see like why is the dialogue around this, because I obviously have stayed away from absolutely everything to do with this film. I didn't look
Hmm.
at trailers, didn't look at anything. I just wanted to go in kind of as blind as I could. And I would say that I think the majority of people are going to really, really love this movie and love it. They're probably going to think this is probably the best Alien movie since Aliens. They'll probably rank Aliens as number one, maybe this even number two for a lot of people. And the reason I think for that is that as far as the alien aspect of this movie, I think it's the best it's ever been. I think this is almost what the OG Alien wanted to achieve, only they didn't have the same tech, or
right.
even in animatronics and puppetry, they didn't have it back then. So the presentation of Alien and everything to do with the xenomorphs is just incredible, and I actually do think it's the best it's ever been. But I think the plot is very lacking, especially if you're coming from if like I enjoy Prometheus. I really like it, and I really like
Yeah.
Covenant. And the parts of them that I like, I would say that those movies really lack in the alien aspect, which is what people really dislike about those movies, I think.
Correct. Yeah.
But they are bursting at the seams with big ideas. Like I think the plot to those movies is really, really good, and at least they're very intriguing as to what they're setting up. And I think this movie really isn't offering anything in that space. So if you're if you come from that side of the alien fandom, you might be a little
Yeah.
bit disappointed. If you come from the opposite side, I think you'll get a lot of fun out of this. I think the story is quite plain. The plot is quite easy. And in some ways, I don't really like how it's set up. I think I would have preferred something else. But the actual like showdowns, the spectacle of it, that's really, really well done.
There's, I believe there's a longer cut of this movie, and I want to watch it.
I think there probably is too. Actually, I think I know there is.
In fact, I came out saying, Derek, I really want to see it. Like, immediately, that was probably like my first thought was, I want to see a director's cut to this movie. Because I actually found that it flew by.
Oh, okay, opposite.
I found it flew by, and that I wanted more setup.
All right, okay.
Which is probably the opposite of what other people are saying. And I can't really say much until we get to the spoilers, but I think I wanted more setup because I felt like we met the climax. I felt like we got to like the end of the movie pretty quickly. And
Sure.
from here on out, it's the end of the movie kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. Though that's the
With
thing
a-
I think
with
as
a-
well.
With another ending on top of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of a thing, you know?
Yeah, I actually felt, and I'm surprised because the film isn't actually that long, as far as I know.
Like
It's
2 hours.
isn't it
is it?
just under the 2 hour mark,
2 hour
yeah.
mark. And I mean, I've seen 2 hour movies before, and kind of felt like, Jesus, that like I kind of feel like I didn't watch anything. Like it's just kind of flew by. Here, I have to say, I was towards the end. I was like, that was like fine, and then there's another part happens, and I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, and I actually thought it was quite a long experience.
Wow,
And
okay.
and I'm wondering, for myself at least, is this kind of a similar situation to something like when you play horror games? I think they work best when they're a much more contained, straightforward experience. And if you drag it out just that little bit, it kind of starts to lose its effectiveness. And
Right.
this is following a very similar structure to the very first Alien. It's like it takes ages before we actually get to him, and once it kicks off, it's just like bang. We're now at the climax of it.
Yeah. I do think before we get into the spoiler discussion, like, I think if people haven't seen this yet and you're already a fan of the Alien franchise, I would say go see it. Like, I think you're going to actually enjoy it.
Yep.
I think it's a good Alien movie. And I think it's sort of a back to basics kind of approach that I think a lot of people are going to appreciate.
Yeah.
And I think that, yeah, like, it is more in line with, say, the original Alien and Aliens than it is with the later movies in the franchise. However, I will also say that the director is clearly a fan of the franchise.
Yeah, this is like a giant love letter to the series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's weird to say this because obviously it is, but it's basically an Alien fan movie. It's
Yeah,
a fan-made movie.
it certainly has. It actually almost has that same kind of vibe to it too. Like it's
Yes.
it's like a fan film with a bigger budget, and it certainly looks like the budget is like, and that's not discrediting it at all. It actually almost felt like if Disney was to set up an Alien ride, this is the type of experience you'd have in that ride.
Yes.
And it would have all the greatest hits of the entire franchise at some point in there, in that experience.
It's like, you are the team and you're coming in. And
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. That's actually great. Yeah. You'd like, the queue would be the different rooms you have to go through until you get to the actual ride.
And
when it all
then
kicks
it's like
off, you know?
a VR experience or some shit.
Yeah, insane. But I think that's probably as much as we can say, because Eric just really wants to get into spoilers, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Don't spoiler bullshit.
So,
Well, even
um,
as a from a non-spoiler perspective, the an area that when I came out of the film that it just didn't have any form of lasting impression on me whatsoever. It did its job, I think, but it was kind of surprising. It was the score to the film. I actually kind of came away not really recognizing it, at least. Like, it didn't feel like there were some parts of it that were a bit alien-like, but then there was other parts where I'm like, I don't recognize this to belong in this universe. And I was kind of surprised by some of the direction. I actually expect them to use the klaxon that we hear in the advertising. That's never been
yeah,
used. It's always been used for the adverts, but it's never been used in an Alien movie before. I thought that they were going to cleverly integrate that somewhere with the score, but yet again, we're a little bit disappointed there.
I felt the same way, where I felt in moments the music was working really well, in particular the intense moments.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the other times where the score wasn't really working for me. And I guess you could call this a spoiler, but I was shocked to not hear certain themes that I expected to hear in this movie, given that it is very much in its entire nature a love letter to Alien, and in particular to the original Alien.
Yeah.
I was shocked to not hear certain music. So yeah, I was really kind of surprised at the lack of exciting music, I thought. Apart from maybe two scenes where I thought the music was reminiscent of scenes from Covenant, I would say.
All right. Okay.
But Eric looks like he feels totally differently about the music.
I can't say unless I spoil it, so
Fair enough. Fair enough. Did you like the music?
there was parts of it where I was like, hey, that's the score from that movie. Hey, that's the score from that movie. So I don't know what the fuck you two are talking about. I'm pretty sure they used the klaxon. Am I wrong in that? I thought they used the klaxon in it as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe they did. Yeah, I don't
Maybe
know.
Eric's more in tune to this than we
Yeah,
are. Maybe
maybe,
he just
maybe.
picked up on these things.
I thought they used the klaxon, and no, there was one piece of score that they mention in the credits that I think I was like, oh, that was in it, and I think Chris was like, oh, I didn't remember that. That was like the
Hmm.
only
Yeah,
thing I
that's
didn't
true.
recognize.
Interesting.
But
Okay. So it's obviously not. It's not like an obvious thing then. That's whatever way they're implementing them. Might have to
must
do a
not be.
rewatch then.
Well,
Oh
I do.
no, we'll have to go to the cinema and watch it again.
I will say that I actually do want to watch the movie again, and I think it's that I want to like
Break free.
fully flesh out my feelings on the movie.
Okay.
Hmm.
So today is like I could talk about how I feel about it
Yeah.
after one watch, but
Yeah.
Hmm.
I feel like it could change. I actually don't.
All right.
I feel like I'm fully, and I think
Well-
the ranking conversation is gonna be interesting.
Sure. Yeah. I kind of felt done with it. Like, not done with it as in I'm never going to see it again. But unlike some of the previous films where I was like, I have to go in there right now and watch that again. I think it was fairly a straightforward movie, and I got everything in that watching. At least it appeared. Obviously not. I must have missed out on a few things there. So I'm going to enjoy the spoiler discussion then, because maybe there's actually a fuck ton I missed, and that will determine whether I need to see it again.
Well, then that's a great segue for us to get into the spoiler discussion. So, for those of you who haven't actually seen the movie yet and just wanted to hear sort of a general review of the movie, like another review of the movie, because I'm sure we are not the first place you came to check out anything around Alien Romulus. I would say that we are saying if you're a fan of Aliens, go like the Alien franchise, go see it. And I don't think any of us are saying it's the best in the franchise. I think that part's probably clear from what we're saying. But I also don't think any of us are saying it's the worst in the franchise, but you'll have to wait till our ranking to see that. But yeah, so go see it, come back, check out the spoiler discussion, and make sure to jump into the comments or get in touch with us to share your own thoughts more specifically on the movie. But now, let's get into the spoilers for Alien Romulus. Where do we even want to start?
Well, I just want to start with, because I went with a friend of mine, and he actually hasn't really seen, like, he's seen sporadically a few of the Alien movies throughout his life, right? But
Right.
never seen Aliens before, so we kind of sat down and the night before and we watched Aliens. But
Okay.
but he was kind of asking me beforehand. I was like, "Do you want to go? I'll book the tickets." And then he was like, "Do I need to like catch up? Like, what do I need to watch all the films before seeing this?" I was like, "No, I don't think so. I think if you just watch like if you know Alien and maybe Aliens, I think you'd be fine because this is supposed to be separate between the two." I would now totally change my recommendation about what movies you need to watch before going into this, and that to me
Right.
was the biggest surprise. I had heard that there was, some, he was kind of keeping in some things to do with the prequel movies into this film,
Hmm.
but I was not expecting it to be as integrated as it was. What a huge surprise for me. So now I would say if you want to
Yes.
go watch this movie, you should watch Prometheus and Alien. The others, you'll get a bit of fun out of it, but if you want to get the story, those are the two films you need to watch. And that was a
Yes.
huge surprise to me.
That was a huge.
Yes.
I think when they go into that room, find the black goo, they play the Prometheus music going in there.
They do.
And I think that's, I was like slapping Chris on the arm. Because I was like, oh my God, it's the black goo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like, they're doing some of the now. It's very, very clear what they're doing with the whole Romulus insignia on the door, and then they open it, and it's like, okay, so this is the milk of the gods kind of a thing that they are trying to drink from to become divine, basically. It's like, oh, that's where it links in with the Romulus Remus myth. Okay, um, but I was very surprised actually to see it at all. I thought maybe there could be like a reference of some kind, like just a little Easter egg or something. I didn't know it was going to be integral to the plot.
No, I wasn't expecting that at all.
That they were trying to reverse engineer the xenomorph to its like original form,
Hmm.
so that they can actually use that stuff. I also loved personally. I loved the opening of this movie.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, I'm like, that's like, especially when they collect the kind of resin fossilized big chap from the destruction of the Nostromo, and they cut it open, and the reveal of the fossil is essentially Giger's drawing, the original drawing, like the inception of it. Like, that is just beautiful.
Yeah,
But on the other hand, I'm like, that seems like a ton of fucking work. Just thinking about the company going through that process seems like
right.
such a lot of work when you
Rather than
know
going to the planet.
you know where it came from. So just go there, I guess. Now there could be the argument that maybe they are and they're searching, and maybe they have one team is like down on LV-426 and they're setting up that colony and they're doing their search, and then you have another team, maybe a competitive science team, is like, no, I think this is the way we can do it. You could make that argument, but it just, the way it's set up, it just kind of makes it kind of go.
I took it as they were finishing off the mission from the original movie,
Yeah.
and that they were, because if they have the files or reports from the Nostromo, then they know they have to put a facehugger on someone to get the thing, get it to grow. I think they just wanted to capture the specimen as it was.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
You know what I mean? So they just wanted that specific specimen.
I did say in our previous episode that I don't think that alien died. And I was
You
right.
you did
You
say
did
that.
say
You
that,
did say
yeah.
that.
I did say that. I just when I was watching it, I was like, I don't think that doesn't seem like that alien died. And then lo and behold, in this movie,
He's not dead. How about
not
that?
dead.
Bang on, Eric.
Yeah.
He heard the music. He knew the alien wasn't something we don't, man.
Yeah. It was a nice opening, and it did tickle my insides a little bit when you hear that ship and the CRT TV kind of turns on. You hear all the little sound effects from the original. I'm just like, yeah, I'm totally fucking here for this. This is what I want, like the retro tech shit.
Yeah,
The
Uh,
minute I
all
heard
that
that,
stuff
I
is
was like,
amazing.
the minute I heard it, I was like, this is going to make Adam fucking giggle. Well,
yeah,
not actually
I was
giggle,
so
but I can't
excited.
use.
Yeah, I was really really excited for it. And I kind of actually I wasn't really sure what I was looking at because the ship actually resembled the Nostromo in terms of the shape of it at least. Uh, and then we see the lettering on the rubble. We see the Nostromo on that and stuff, and it's like, oh, that's like, it is a really really cool opening. But you can poke so many holes in it, and you're probably better off just don't do that. Just fucking sit back, watch the movie.
Yeah, don't poke holes. Don't
Yeah,
bother
yeah.
poking the holes. Just watch the movie, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the sets in this movie are fantastic.
Yeah, it looks like,
The sets are spectacular.
and it's clear that he is not just a fan of the films. I think he must be a fan of the like Alien Isolation as well. So much of this film was like that game.
He did say that in an interview.
Right? Yeah, because it looked
Right.
kind of similar. You know the
Yeah, and
the-
there's even the vents from Alien Isolation.
yeah, and I think
the
there's the save thing is in there. I thought I
Yeah,
spotted
I
it.
think
The phone.
Yeah,
there was two guys sitting in front of us. I don't know who they were, but I think Chris, you knew one of them,
Yes, I do.
and
yeah.
I think he said that
Carl,
as
you're
well.
probably listening.
Yeah. I think he told us that the save from Alien Isolation was on the wall.
Yeah.
Before they
Which
went
was a
into,
great shout.
which was I think that was just before they entered the room with the facehuggers.
I have since seen an interview with the director where he said he actually has those sprinkled throughout the movie, and that they are an indicator of danger. It's like, oh, you've hit a save point, you should probably save. You're about to, and purely as a Easter egg to the game.
right.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
that was one of the
So
things.
now I want to rewatch the movie. You know,
Well, when I came out of the film, that was the first thing I kind of said. I was like, that was a video game. That entire film was a video game. Like the way it played
Yes.
out, like and the levels got a little bit harder, and there was new challenges each time, and there's ways to get past them. Like the whole thing just played out like it was a game, and my friend was like honestly, when they first open the station and you have the zero gravity whole thing, he was like, am I just watching Dead Space, you know?
well, funny enough, Eric said when he went home he played Dead Space.
Yeah. I'm now playing Dead Space because after that game, so I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I thought immediately of Event Horizon at that moment because of the way it's
Sure.
shot. It was kind of similar as well, which, you know, obviously both of those inspired Dead Space. But yeah, the way it's shot, I think is phenomenal. Because I actually kind of got a little bit motion sick when he was like rotating that camera through the, and it was your
All
man,
right.
and your man was going, "Oh, my stomach," you know. He was kind of mentioning that, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm kind of feeling that with you," you know.
Yeah,
It was an
yeah.
odd experience.
What did you guys think of the cast of this movie?
Adam, go first.
I liked the two leads are phenomenal. The main Rain, she's really really good. She like carrying the throughout the film, and Andy, it's fucking unbelievable.
Very
The
good,
robot. The rest I think are pretty damn forgettable. I think I know the objective here was to cast people who are, so you're just not sure who's going to survive. But
Which I wasn't.
I
was
fucking
actually
was.
guessing throughout. Like, I think the obvious people survived,
yeah,
but there was a point where they introduced a story element where I was like, they need to do something with that, right? And this is before I know of, like, there's no black goo yet, right?
right.
So the girl is pregnant.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, something either gruesome is going to happen to her
Mm-hmm.
because it's that kind of movie, or Rain is the distraction, and this is going to be the one survivor.
yeah. I think that could have been pretty cool.
So that was my two, like, that, like, oh, all of our focus is on Rain's story, but actually the last girl, rather than it being the replacement for Ripley survives, that it's actually this other character, and that way, if Rain had, I'm glad she didn't. I really like the character, but if Rain had died at some point, then you'd be like, oh shit, actually, I don't know what's going to happen now. I don't know who's going to make it out. I think they're all going to die, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was pretty straightforward. And I just knew that they're all here to give us some gruesome deaths, and this is the person we're following. So it for me it wasn't very effective, and
Right.
the cast of characters were fine to serve their part, but I didn't care for any of them, if I'm going to be honest. So I'm just here to watch them die, I guess. Um, in that way, I guess it's a little bit like Alien 3. uh,
Right.
but the one that is pregnant, she was actually really really good. But yeah, the rest of them, yeah, not so much. I don't think.
See,
I think even the guy who's like a dick to Andy,
Yeah.
I think he would have been way more effective if he was only a dick to Andy. But he was just
Yes.
a dick.
Right. I found that if you take each character on their own
Yeah.
and talk about them for a moment, you're like, no, actually, yeah, it was a good performance. I actually did that really well.
Yeah.
But yet, when I take the cast as a whole, I'm underwhelmed.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone was bad in the movie at all, actually. But I do think I would have liked maybe two more people. I actually don't think there was
Yeah.
enough people.
Yeah.
Because I think when they start dropping off, you find that you've got like three people for the rest of the movie pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it felt like we got to the ending like almost immediately.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
needed more people to drop off.
I would agree with that, and I'd be interested to know like why did he decide that that was enough characters for the film.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me kind of wishes, and this is more to do with you would need to kind of change the story altogether. Actually, I think in my head I was kind of building up something a little bit grander, just thinking about the station, Romulus and Remus. I was kind of hoping that there would be people on the station, but I think we needed to see a few more action sequences with the aliens actually causing havoc a bit more. But yeah, I think what we got was still really good.
Eric,
Yeah.
what did you think of the cast?
I like the cast. I think they did a good job, and I like that I'm not being distracted by some like, oh, there's a big famous actor. You know what I mean? I like that idea, and it just kind of gives this moment to let these other actors shine. As Adam has stated, Rain did a brilliant job, and Andy was just incredible, except for that one piece of dialogue he gives. But that's just more of it's really cheesy rather than his performance being in any way bad.
Mm.
But I really liked them, but I think where they slightly fall in the idea of possibly not caring about them is, as I think you said, Chris, in the non-spoiler part, is the script. You have
Yeah.
the dickhead. He's being a dick. Why is he being a dick? Well, this is the reason he's a dick. Okay, now he dies. Well, he doesn't actually die that quickly, but like that idea, it's like, and here's this person, and this is their story. We're moving on. This is this person. That's their story. We're moving on. And I think that's probably where they slightly fall down. In that area, but I do like they're not they're not experts, and that I do like that moment that when Andy gets his new protocol and his entire character changes, and then there's that panic of them all trying to get year one. I can't remember the name of the character. That's probably one issue. I don't know the name of all the characters. So that's
Sure.
probably one issue where with making the characters feel more alive. But that moment when Andy gets the new protocol and then they're trying to save your one who just had the face hugger on her and try to get out of there, I thought that was a really great moment with all the actors, and the moment when the door was closed
That's
and
one of
Andy,
the best scenes in the whole movie.
there's Rain and the brother, and they're both trying to get Andy to open the door for the pregnant girl to get out, and the
They're
xenomorph is stuck.
begging
Yeah,
him to open the door,
I
and he
think that
won't
was
open it.
such. So those two
Yeah.
moments, I think their performances really shine in those two moments.
I like that aspect of the movie where the character of Andy was he meant something to, well, actually secretly, like, he meant something to Rain, but Rain was going to discard him and leave him behind, and he was just a means to an end and an object to the rest of them. They were all using him, actually, and then he held all the power and they were then powerless to him, and it like totally flipped around. I thought that was really really good and a really good idea. um but he's not the only synthetic in the movie. He's-
Mm.
uh, oh boy, I don't know how to feel about this one. So we have uh, they find a synthetic on board.
Which,
They
by the way, I don't know if that was the
reoperate.
same synthetic, but the one that like was on the ground all melted and shit, and then
You can
grabs.
tell from the back of his head who it was.
That is the same one, then, is it? That grabs them while he's on the ground. I assume it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scared the living shit out of me. Jesus,
Good.
did I jump? But not
Good.
because of that. Because there was this one just up behind me on the seats. Screamed the place down at that moment. It fucking gave me a heart attack.
Oh my god.
But it was a good moment. I think there it was great to see an android. Well, in this world, I guess it almost looked like a zombie nearly. This kind
Right,
of
yeah,
half
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
almost like you could see like the inner workings looked like a skeleton and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
the way he behaved was very zombie like in that moment. Very
Yeah,
very good. Like bringing in some of his experience from the Evil Dead into this film.
The body looked amazing,
Yeah,
but the face.
the face could be.
I'm so confused
Yeah,
why it looks bad.
yeah.
It could have just been animatronic.
Yes, I agree. I think I
It
would
did
have.
not need to be CGI at all.
So this is the character of Rook, who is the same model of Ash from the Alien movie. And my mate, actually, when we came out of it, he was like, "Was that a thing? Was that like a reference to something?" So it's like
Right.
it's one of those things where it's suffers from a similar thing that we see from like Marvel movies and shit like that. It's like if you're in the know, you're in the know, but you're leaving like a lot of people out if they don't know. That would have been just as effective if it was just an animatronic and it was lit in a way where it's almost in shadow and you're just getting the highlight across the face. You get you'd see the silhouette of him and you'd get the voice. And similar to what they do with Bishop in Alien 3. That's actually very efficient, very effective. It would work perfectly. What they did with the deep fake, it kind of takes you out of the movie at that moment.
Yeah, yeah.
And kind of completely kind of ruins the thing. And I also think he overstays his welcome.
And for me, because that scene happens quite early in the movie, it put me back a little bit, and I started. I don't know. It like unveiled any technical problems that would then show up in the movie. Everything just started sticking out to me like sore thumbs, and I don't know why. But once that threw me off, I was like, oh well, that face hugger is clearly a remote control going across the floor. Like I just couldn't stop then thinking about what didn't look real, rather than the amazing stuff that looked real.
Mm-hmm.
And it really took me out of the experience for quite a chunk of the movie.
Yeah, I think it was a bad call. And I don't think, based on what I've seen online, I think that everyone's in agreement that that was not a good call.
And I don't mean the character looking like Ash. I actually think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Given the time era, that because it's much later that you get someone like Bishop who talks about the problem with those models. So it makes sense to me that, they picked up the alien from Alien 1. This crew, this station was working on it. Like the android on board probably would look like Ash. That makes sense to me. It is actually just
company
the
robot.
fake CGI on the face that looks so bad. I just could not take it seriously whatsoever.
That didn't bother me that much,
Right.
but that's probably because in today's day and age, you almost expect it. It's like there's just so many movies that do the deep fake stuff. It never really looks good. So I was like, okay, this is just deep fake. Make it look like Ian Holm. Make his face move more smoothly than animatronic would. Grand. Okay, this is just
Hmm.
what they do now. It's like it's It's a little bit like Jurassic Park, where it's like just because you can do it doesn't necessarily mean you should do it. But
Right.
that's really what it is. Here we can do this deep fake. Let's just put that in there. So that didn't bother me that much because it's just all right. It's to me it's almost like nowadays just seeing CGI in a movie. It's like, yeah, of course, it's always going to be CGI.
Yeah, I kind of feel like
Uh,
though if they actually went the CGI route, probably would have been more effective. There's just something about Disney's approach to deepfake is just not quite working. It
It's
doesn't
not
work.
good. It's not good.
no, no, no. But that's the thing. Though. That's why it's like Jurassic Park. It's they're doing it because they can, not necessarily because they should.
Yeah, I wasn't
Um,
expecting. I really wasn't expecting something like that, especially considering how much this film is boasting its use of practical effects. They're using that quite a lot
Yes.
here
Yeah.
to the extent where it's almost like bashing CGI. And of course, this movie has CGI. It'd be ridiculous to say it doesn't have CGI. Of course, it does.
Yeah.
of course,
It
that's
just
CGI. The entire planet, the space station, the asteroid rings, the
yeah.
And
No,
to
of
be
course,
fair,
it's
I
all
mean,
CGI.
he has said that it's not that there's no CGI in the movie.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm not. I'm not criticizing
And
him.
yeah.
Really, it's just more that I think the studio and so on would be wanting to push that. It is a kind of a marketing gimmick right now to say that we're doing it all on camera and I do think that is the better approach. These aliens look phenomenal. But I think this would have been a really nice callback, even just to make him an animatronic. But I would have
I do too.
left it. I would have left it like that scene. Pretty much end it where Andy goes into the room and he has that conversation with him in private. I would have left. That is the end of Rook. Now we do not see him any further,
And Andy takes on Rook's.
well, Andy has all the information that we need, right? So if there's any form of explanation required, Andy now has that information. But it would also just prevent, because Rook kind of became a little bit of a Red Queen Resident Evil kind of situation from there
Right.
on, and
Yeah.
I didn't really like that because he wasn't villainous enough, if you get me. Like he was.
I get you.
So
Well, he wasn't villainous at all. Really, his mission was just
yeah.
get the black stuff off the ship.
Yeah, so
That's his mission.
he's just going by company protocol. There's something about Ash just feels way more evil.
Right.
So
Well, it's when he goes twitchy
Yeah.
and does something that wouldn't be in his protocol while
Yeah.
Rook is doing his protocol. Yeah, I did. I also liked that Andy's character did. I don't know if this is what what Bishop meant by twitchy, but Andy does kind of twitch after he gets picked on by the kids. He gets beaten up and everything. His hand is like twitching and stuff like
yeah,
that. I don't really know if that's what Bishop exactly meant or if that's being a bit too on the nose, but I like that reveal moment of him being an android.
yeah, it's phenomenal. Because at first I actually just genuinely did think that
It was just
maybe he some form of autism, that we're going to see this autistic character in the Alien universe, which in itself is going to be really challenging and scary because she would have to
right.
be looking after her brother and stuff. But the reveal that it is an android, as well as because the dad jokes bit, like when Andy's first introduced, and he's telling those dad jokes, I'm like, fuck, the delivery of them is so bad, right? Like, I didn't
Right.
realize, and then
Yeah.
the explanation that he's an android and he's been programmed to say these jokes and stuff, and it comes around again later on into the movie in such a fucking beautiful way. It's actually really, really well done, and his performance is just phenomenal. I think like one of the real highlight moments, including Andy, not necessarily his performance, but just I think this film is just full of really interesting gags. Like it utilizes some of the things from the Alien universe and does some really clever shit with it. But the bit where they're wanting to reprogram Andy while he's in the facehugger room, trapped with him, and he looks like he's possessed nearly. It's like this rebooting situation, but it looks like something out of like an Exorcist film or some shit. Like it's very clever how they utilize combining
Different horror tropes. and
traditional
stuff.
horror
Yeah.
stuff with science fiction. Very, very clever.
I do. I think this movie as well is very good at presenting like really good alien scenarios,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like
well, that's what
really
I
good
mean
alien
by
scenarios.
like the gags. Like it's like all the tricks of the tray kind of situation. Like they're so, it's so clever what they do in this film.
And they rationalize it all.
Yeah,
It's never just, you know, so when they, they add the lore that face huggers actually hunt by heat signature.
yeah.
So if we change the room temperature to our heat temperature, but the caveat is we cannot allow ourselves to be afraid. And the silence and tension in that room was like you could feel it, It
Yeah,
was
I
like
remember
that was like a quiet place then in that moment,
we're in there. They go into that room. It's dark. The music is gone, and Chris was about to eat some popcorn, and then he just pulls his hand back out because he realizes that there's no sound in the entirety of the cinema. He's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, never mind."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
eat it, put it back in.
I also like the just before I think before that when the facehuggers are first introduced, they're in the cryo room. So this is the thing where actually I find that the plot is very good in that they're wanting to get off this planet that has no sunlight, and they're pretty much going to be trapped there by the company forever because of the way the company's
Yeah,
system
it's never
works.
gonna let them go.
Yeah, it's never gonna let them go, and I really like that kind of world building element there. It's the first time you ever really see a civilization in the Alien franchise and how an alien the system works. So they find this spaceship and they go up to the spaceship, and they have to get into the cryopods, but they realize there's not enough fuel for the cryopods. Okay, well now we need to go get more fuel, so they have to go further into the station, and then they go into a room where there happens to be the face huggers frozen in the cryo room, but then as they're taking out the cryopods, it's heating up the room, so then the face huggers get out. So I like that there's a reason to the aliens constantly getting out or getting around and something like that. It's not just like so happen or not like oh they like your man pushes Andy and he goes into the right button that happens to
Mm.
open up all the doors. It's nothing silly. It's constantly pushing the character story that then forces them into a horrible situation. I think
Yeah.
that moment in the water was pretty fucking good. And my God, that face huggers thingy, Bobby, is so long.
Yeah, that side of
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like really, really gruesome and graphic, and I
Yeah.
love that he just went full in on that.
Mm.
And we've seen the chest burster sequence I don't know how many times, but to
Right.
be able to do it in a way that's kind of new and fresh and not necessarily different, but just it's really it's really gruesome. The like didn't quite get out, so he has to kind of push his way out of the rib cage. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty rough. But it
Yeah.
is the first time we see that middle stage, so we know. So we
Yes.
see
I
the
was gonna ask you about
cocooning.
this.
It's like that was really interesting. It's like why haven't we ever seen this moment?
So what I wonder is, has that ever been brought up or has it come up anywhere else or has he added that to the lore now?
I don't know. I have never really delved into like any of the comics or the novels, so I'm not sure
Right,
if
so
it's
it
like
could
in
be in
there.
there somewhere, right?
It could be.
I love it.
It's very cool,
And
and
I love that your man tried to kill it, and I love that it killed him from the cocoon.
yeah,
It
and
showed how defensive it is of itself. And then it gave us another alien birth scene, only this time as the full xenomorph.
Mm.
yeah,
Like when its head
Coming
started
out.
coming out and the music is intense and she's trying to get out and everything. And then you could see it like flexing its fingers and everything and like just waking up basically.
Yeah, and I like
That
that
scene was amazing.
that's it almost reminded me of like Christopher Nolan. You know that moment in Dunkirk where it's like the plane is getting attacked and there's the bullets going into the ship and the guys are starting to flood and then there's something else happening. It's like all intense happening at the one time. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of that because you have the aliens slowly coming out and you're one trying to get out and she just can't. While talking to her brother, who's in the room of pure silence with all the different facehuggers, and he's
Right.
not allowed to
oh
be
yeah, yeah, yeah,
afraid,
yeah.
but his sister is panicking like hell. And I think
hmm
that was like, because I was like, oh my God, who's gonna die
Yeah,
at
yeah.
that
He
moment?
he was building the tension really well in that scene. And I think there's scenes like that where they start bringing in that piece of music that I think you're probably referring to, Eric. It's very reminiscent of the Backburster lead up music from Covenant.
Yes. They
Yeah.
play that,
I
and
don't
I
know if they
think
play that, but it's similar to that.
yeah, very similar. Where it has a bit of a klaxon style sound to it and everything, and it's quite really works. I really love that piece of music in the Alien franchise because there's something I don't know. There's something grotesque about that music to me. It just really works for horrible, grotesque situations.
Yeah, and like building tension. Like you
Hmm.
can feel your heartbeat rising with it. Like, yeah.
So there's a bunch of like references to previous movies in this one. And actually in like we mentioned the already that Prometheus we have the black goo is in here as a fairly
Hmm.
major plot point.
Yeah.
Um which you could say is also in Covenant, so that kind of fits that in there as well. But surprisingly enough, this movie, with that sequence that we just talked about, it coming out of the wall, introduces this own version of Grid from AVP. We get our own hero character, Xenomorph, that is present then for the rest of the movie. I think.
What was his defining feature? I can't remember.
Well, when the guy cowl prodded him, in the thing, right?
Sure.
He bites the yolk off, and the tip of it is stuck in his head. And you can kind of see that there's a slight crack in his
Oh,
thing,
right, okay.
but there's like light. It looks like lightning going off on the inside of his head, and there's like smoke and shit. And it's like you see him now for the rest of the movie. It's like here's our hero Xeno.
Right.
And I just think
Oh, I
that's
never really caught
It's the
any of those
sub
details.
boss before the final boss.
yeah.
I didn't know so. That's actually that's a good call.
They
And then I find
also.
the room
Sorry,
with
go
the
ahead.
water with the facehuggers reminded me of the bit in the medical lab in Aliens with the facehugger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
and they're trying to get the door open, and they're
Yeah.
all waking
Mm.
up, and like time is ticking. I think this movie, uh, like I know, like for a lot of people, like we talked about it when we were talking about Alien Covenant, that like the audience knows more than the characters do,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
and it that tends to actually annoy the fans rather than like it wasn't a problem for us, but the fans tend to get annoyed like why are you doing this when there's
Mm-hmm.
like whatever, right? So it for a lot of fans that seems to hold them back. For this movie, I think the fact that we know more works in its favor because of the way they place the scenes.
Hmm.
The ticking time bomb of the facehuggers waking up is us saying, "No, you need to get the fuck out of there. Like, hurry the fuck up." Like, but they don't know, so
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of taking their time getting the fuel cells and stuff. And
Hmm.
I think the movie takes advantage of the fact that we all know the
Yeah,
stuff.
but at the same
So let's
time,
play with it.
even presenting things that we know, for some reason, it still feels kind of fresh and new, and it presents them in a way that we actually haven't seen before. And I would say Aliens kind of establishes almost a dinosaur-esque style xenomorph that we see going forward. Whereas this one and the way that xenomorph comes out of that thing, and he's like, the pregnant lady is like jumps down, and it jumps down on top of him, and then she
Hmm.
looks and she sees the bodies being dragged up
Yeah.
the thing. Like the way it's being presented here is a bit closer to what we see in Alien 1 or Alien Isolation, the game.
Very much
Uh,
so.
and that's quite surprising. The footage the shot that really stood out to me in this entire film was when they're kind of it's in the latter half in the movie, and Andy has his little fit again, and he's down in the lower section, and she goes back down, or no, she turns around, I think, and she sees one just above him, and he kind of just like he just stands up. It's so creepy, and you only see a silhouette, and it's to present them in that way. I think is just I'm so glad to see the Xenos in this format
Yeah.
rather than these bullet sponge dinosaurs.
Yeah, because I think even the point when they're in the hive, which is the latter half of the movie, and my problem with that is I think it just kind of pacing wise gets a bit messy in that area to kind of going up and then the back down and then they're going back up and then yeah.
Oh
So
yeah,
I just
yeah,
think I think it's just a bit messy in its whole thing, but I think there's some really cool moments in there.
yeah.
And even though I can't remember the character's name, but the brother when he gets stabbed with the tail and he's brought up and it's in the hive, and then you have all the aliens coming towards him. that to me was like it's not bullet sponge moment.
It's your
It's
fucked
yeah,
moment.
it's your
Yeah.
fucked moment.
Yeah,
Like, you
and
know what
that's
I mean?
his
It's like that
take.
is
That's his take as well on in
the
Aliens
vent.
when they look up. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
see them all coming. Like it's like
Yeah, yeah.
beautifully done. Beautifully done. I would
But
say
who
that
would it?
the thing one of the things I didn't like about the movie, from a directorial standpoint, I think this is where Ridley Scott is much stronger, is a sense of placement. So when I know, like last week when we were talking about the Alien movies, ranking them, one of the criticisms that Chris had, and it's very fair criticism, is just the amount of back and forward in Prometheus.
Hmm.
Sure.
But that entire back and forward, you know where they are. Like you can tell when they're on the ship, and you can tell
Yeah,
when they're in the
yeah.
pyramid. Here we have two sides of the station, Romulus and Remus, and I actually cannot really follow unless they tell me where they are. I can't actually tell where they are on the station.
Yeah.
So I think the sense of placement and given maybe the two stations need a slightly different design language or something to really distinct between them, just so I know where you're at. I think that was an area that this film kind of fell down on.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's fair to say. And I think it's also there is a bit of back and forth that goes on in the movie too.
Hmm.
Um I was very impressed with, again, just from like a concept idea, I thought it was good. They present earlier on that shooting them is going to be a problem, and then they turn off the gravity
Genius.
and start shooting them so that the acid floats. But then
They have an
they have
obstacle.
to now navigate floating acid,
Mhm.
and they have a time limit to do so. Now, one issue I have with the movie, I think the impending time limit that they have is way too short. And I don't believe they got done what they got done in that time limit. It also made me feel like anytime Andy did stop to explain anything, that I was like, you don't have time to explain, so stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think they should have given it, even if they had said 2 hours to impact
Yeah.
for the movie. But actually, it's 45 minutes to impact, and they do everything that they do.
Hmm.
And yeah, maybe it is in real time as we're watching it, 45 minutes. But it felt like they did a lot more, and it would take a lot longer to get to this side of the station, and it would take longer to extract the stuff. You know, like when you're editing something, you're editing it quicker than how people actually do it.
Yeah, especially because at the
So
end as well, it's like when she goes back down, kills the aliens, floats through the acid with Andy, and then they have to get back up 10 seconds to impact or something like that. It's like really ridiculous. And it's like, well, that's a really big elevator shaft. They're not going to get up that in 10 seconds. And yet, obviously, they cut it and they do. And it's like, you're really pushing me out here. I actually think they should have done a thing of like, here's these aliens, and if anyone else comes up here, they're gonna get fucked. There's face huggers, there's aliens, we don't know what the hell might happen. We need to destroy this station. So I think that they should have said it themselves. Then we get the 40 minutes.
Maybe. I think he was
Or,
trying
or
to
well, he was trying to create pressure.
yeah, not just create pressure, but again, it's kind of like going back to Alien 1. I agreed at the time that, yeah, there's an issue with the time.
I just needs to
Yeah,
be longer.
it's
That's
just
all.
being longer. But he is just pretty much just trying to do the the termination of the ship from Alien 1.
Because
Which,
he even had
again,
the same X as well.
yeah, another kind of
Yeah, yeah,
callback
yeah.
and reference. So there's a ton of them in this film, and I think the visual references brilliant. Even ones that might tie into the story, brilliant. Dialogue references, fucking shit.
What are you Are you trying to tell me that when Andy jumps on the alien and then goes, stay
This-
away from her, and then looks at the camera and winks and goes, you bitch,
Yeah,
was
I don't
not
know. I don't know
amazing?
which is worse, that or Thranduil telling Legolas that he has to find out, Strider's true name is in The Hobbit. But it is a kind of, it comes from the same this is plaguing not just cinema but video games, right? We need to get out of this fucking nostalgia bait bullshit and just start moving forward. This movie is actually really good and stands on its own merits, and it's actually the parts that bring it down are the ones that rely too heavily on you watching the previous films.
Yeah, so the sets are the nostalgia.
Yeah.
They
The
take
sounds
you
are.
right back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? All the creatures alone
The
are
Reeboks.
nostalgia. The Rain holding the gun and the fan blowing her hair, and
Yeah.
she looks like she's in Aliens.
Yeah, like
It
she's
is
wearing the
the
same type
nostalgia,
of
right?
shoes as Ellen Ripley from Aliens. She's wearing the
Like,
same type of watch as Newt from Aliens. Like there's all these little things that are just beautiful little kind of nuggets
Whoa.
of previous history. You do not need to be
to
given
use the dialogue.
Yeah, so we had
Same with when Rook quoted Ash about their chances.
Yeah.
I was like,
and I think the issue here is that they're
there's
not
no need.
the in the previous films they're not only beautifully delivered but beautifully earned. Here they don't feel earned, like at all. They don't feel earned.
No, there's no reason for Andy to say what he said.
No.
Other than remember Aliens.
Yes, I'm very
That is
surprised
the only reason.
that they went that direction, and I'd love to know if that was the director's decision or if that was because we have to remember the parent company now.
Right.
And this is the aspect of it that I would be a little bit worried about. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I'd be worried about what the next one is.
Yeah. And I think as well, it wasn't just those bits of dialogue that bothered me, which is the re-quoting of other movies. Also, this takes place before Aliens, so Andy said it well before Ripley did now in the timeline. So he was the original to say that line now, apparently. But the dialogue in general bothered me. I don't think this movie is well written, actually. I think the set pieces are really good. I think the ideas are fucking solid.
Mm-hmm.
And where I get bothered is like things like she saying, like she has a moment where she sees the sun and she puts her eyes up.
Mm-hmm.
We already know she hasn't actually seen the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And like that moment, just leave it alone. That's enough for me to go, oh my God, it's her first time seeing the sun. And then someone comments on it, go, what's that? It's the sun. She's never seen it before or something. And it's like, oh, like you're ruining the moment. And then the other thing is like the guy who's being mean to Andy the whole time. And it's like, okay, it's so clear he doesn't like synthetics. That's really interesting. Like it's so clear. And then she on the ship says what the audience is thinking, which is, why is he being so mean to Andy? And the person beside her goes, it's not his fault. It's because his parents died and it was a synthetic's fault. I was like, that's not the time to explain that. Let us linger on it for a while and then it can come up later in the movie at a time where it's more appropriate to say why or to like reflect on why or
I would agree with that.
Dialogue writing, like.
But I actually don't think it's obvious that he has a problem with synthetics, and that would be my issue with it. I think he's just a dick because he was kind of being a dick to Rain anyway. You know, so if he was actually fine to everyone else but only picked on him, I think that would drive it home that he has an issue with synthetics. Which
you wanted him to be more like Chris from Team America. He's
get away
only got
from
an
me,
issue
you
with
asshole.
actors. Yeah. And he's super sound to the rest of the team. Like,
well, more
I actually-
Holloway to David. That's what
Yeah.
I wanted. You know,
Yeah, I was about to say that. I thought he was like Holloway to David from Prometheus, where it was just more of a case of like, I suppose, newfound discrimination in this world.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Where it's
not.
like-
We've kind of seen it before. The people. I mean, even Ripley towards Bishop, we've seen it before, and but just that he's just a dick in general. Kind of. Yeah, it didn't really earn it.
to me, I didn't mind his general attitude because I think once you hear that his parents died in a mining accident, and yes, it was a synthetic's fault, but that also means it was Wayland's fault. I think he's just disenfranchised with his whole life.
Yeah, he just hates people.
And his whole goal is just to get out of
It's
this.
like Disney.
You know?
They hate people.
They hate people.
Yeah.
Well, There's so many we've mentioned. There's so many references to the Alien franchise throughout.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Who would have known that they would have referenced Alien Resurrection so heavily?
It was definitely a choice to decide that I'm going to make the final part of this movie not only reference Alien Resurrection, but also Prometheus. So, like, the beginning of the chronology and the end of the chronology, let's make them one unit that's going to take on everyone in the ship.
I feel like for most audience members going to see the movie,
Right?
this is the make or break moment for them, right? The introduction of this new creature, because this is always what seems to be
Okay.
the sore subject for people going into these movies, because they just want to see the xenomorph and the facehuggers kill people. That's all they want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like because it is born of the black goo as well, this is the part of the movie where they're going to be like, oh, this is just more Prometheus shit. People who feel that way.
Sure.
And I wonder how people actually feel about it. Personally, I really liked it.
The online discourse so far, from what I've seen,
Yeah,
seems to not have a problem with it whatsoever.
great.
And I think
Because,
the reason for it,
yeah,
see, I actually think the ideas that come from Prometheus and Covenant would be received better if they were also given the xenomorph. Once you've given them the xenomorph, I think they're more open to seeing newer ideas.
right. Yeah. So, like, we want it as well as, not instead of.
Yes.
And I think he does a good job at that. And I think, honestly, I think the most horrific thing in the whole movie is this final part.
it's
I think
pretty fucked up.
the birth was fucked up. The creature itself was incredibly fucked. It was like fucking Slender Man and Xenomorph had a fucking baby. And then it wanting to feed on its mother was fucking disgusting. I was like, oh.
Yeah, so that's the part. Like, so one of the things that I don't quite get with this film is actually why it's called Romulus. I don't actually understand that.
Right.
Um,
Like, other than the Romulus station thing.
yeah, but it's like, why do we have a Romulus and Remus station? That's why I was saying, like, if they had the two halves or maybe two different looks or something like that. Like, I just didn't quite understand why it was two halves and why you picked the name Romulus specifically as the name of this. Because if we look at the previous titles, Prometheus and Covenant have much larger ideas as to why they're called that. Not just because it's the name of the ships. Apart from just that infant part, because they're walking through and they see the mural, the painting on the wall, and it shows an infant feeding off a dead woman. And that's really the only connection we're kind of seeing here, as far as I can tell. Maybe I need to see it again to kind of look for greater stuff, but I don't understand why that mythical name is tied to this film at all.
Right. How did you feel about the introduction of the creature?
I thought it was good. I like. Well, I'm all for the Black Goose shit, so I'm always interested in seeing new stuff. He was certainly creepy, and I think it was a very brave decision to go down that road. I think the conflict itself, at that point, I was done with the movie. If I'm going to be honest, not done as in like checked
Right.
out. I don't want to see anymore. I was happy with what I saw, and seeing this extra bit at the end as like I don't know if I could do without it, but the fact that it's there, I don't really mind. Whatever. He it was a very interesting creature. I can't wait to see the behind the scenes discussing the design process for that. Yeah, I thought it was fine. That was fine. That was gruesome.
How did you feel, Eric?
Boy, that thing is the stuff of nightmares. Yeah, so when because obviously, right, she has, as you stated, Chris, she's pregnant. All right, but something awful is going to happen here. She's pregnant,
It has to, right?
and it's alien.
It has to.
And then they find the black goo, and it's like, oh, right, that's pretty cool that they had the black goo thingy. And then Rook was saying, oh, this is the next step for human evolution. And then her brother telling her, oh, this is going to heal you. And I thought at that moment they were going to inject her and it was going to be some horrible fate. And then she injects it in herself. and you're like, okay, well, horrible fate's gonna happen to her. But then she gives birth to a fucking egg, and I was like, wait a minute, is this how eggs are made? I thought it was like the actual face hugger egg came out of her
All
at
right.
first. I was like, oh my God, is this how eggs were originally made before there was a queen? There was the black stuff in a pregnant woman. Like I thought that maybe that's how David made all the different eggs or something. And then when it like opened up and I saw the woman's face or the child's face, I was like, no, that's how engineers are made. My God, I wish that's how engineers were made. I would have rather seen an engineer than this creepy ass shit. I fucking, oh, it was so cool. It was so cool because it was so fucked up. And then even when she,
It's
and then
like
even when she,
it's like up there with the Resident Evil 8 baby.
oh God, yeah, yeah. And then she like checked herself, and instead of having milk come out, it was all the weird black slime shit coming out of her. And then that's what the baby was then
And
feeding on. I
it
think
wanted to
so.
feed on her. Yeah,
Yeah, and I was like,
horrible, horrible.
that's. So I was really glad with that because I think as I stated in the previous episode,
What the fuck? Yeah, definitely
um,
finish the sentence, man.
as I stated in the previous episode, that I didn't like that Aliens kind of reduced the threat of Alien, that it made Alien a bullet sponge
Yeah.
rather than what it was, which is like almost like a predator in the first one. And this is now bringing it back to that root of being that weird predator thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like a, you know, like Homelander and the boys has such an obsession with like milk and stuff. It kind of like reminded me of
This
that
dude
because
is like
it's,
Homelander.
well, it's as equally disgusting as
Yeah.
Homelander. I really loved this creature. It was so disturbing. So yeah.
It does kind
Yeah.
of end up then confirming there was like a fan theory thing that went around and then a fake fan script that went around. I think I kind of mentioned it before. I don't know if it was on podcast or off, but the theory of like the whole life cycle of the alien and the black goo and the engineers not being able to make life, so they want to get the xenomorph's blood and turn it into black goo to generate life.
Mm.
This
Right, yeah,
kind
yeah.
of confirms that a little bit, just a little bit, because the fact that this woman who is, if ancestrally a descendant of an engineer, gives
Yeah.
birth to technically something that looks quite engineer-like
Mm.
from the black goo, kind of confirms that theory a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's a really bold choice to end the movie this way. I really wasn't expecting anything from Prometheus and Covenant to make its way into this movie at all, actually.
No.
So I was just quite impressed with how he honored everything that come before
Mm-hmm.
and didn't contradict anything. He was like, look, this is the mythology, and I'm going to find a way to bridge the mythology and make it all feel actually, because I think a lot of people feel like the goo and the hive thing feel so disconnected. And I actually think he went, no, look, that's inside them.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Now you don't have to like think about it too much. It's inside them. You can take it out of them. And that's it. It's like, oh, okay. I guess that's not as convoluted as, because I just think that, and like we talked about it when we were talking about Prometheus, but I was like, Prometheus presents it all so convoluted,
Yeah.
and actually this film makes it very not convoluted. It's
Yeah.
actually quite easy. It's like that makes that okay.
Yeah.
I know that I always knew it did,
Yeah.
but it's very plain and simple how they tell it, and I think it's an important part of storytelling. But I think is there anything else you guys want to talk about specifically before we rank this thing?
Maybe just with the plot. So I like I said, I think the xenomorph side of this thing is just phenomenal, and I think it is the best we've seen in the series actually.
That's why I want to watch it again.
Yeah, it's like that shit's really fucking good. But I didn't. The thing that I didn't like is the plot of them getting to the station. I actually don't really like that because, I didn't like that it was just on their doorstep. I wish this was further away, so that no one could really access it but them. Like, why are they
Right.
the only ones that went up to this thing? It just that felt a bit, I don't know, not convenient, but it just seems a bit odd that there's a Wayland station just above their heads. Like they're
I
obviously able
actually,
to leave. They have a ship. They're able to leave. So it's just a bit odd that no one came across this thing.
yeah.
And it was also weird that this is the first time she's ever seen the sun. If all of her friends have a fucking ship, you can just pop up and have a look. I just think that all that kind of stuff is a little bit weird. And I think I would have preferred if they, as youngsters, were maybe salvage crew, and this was a little bit further out, and they came across it and decided themselves, fuck the salvage. This place has hypersleep chambers. We can nick them
We
and
can
go.
get it, yeah.
You could
Yeah.
I just need to push that a little bit further out or something like that.
I think that's what I meant by I feel like the movie actually, even though maybe people feel like it was slow to start, I think it needed more setup. I think I needed to glance these people's lives a little bit more
Mm.
to fully buy into the investment of why they're going in here. Because like when you think about, and I know like I was trying to call back to the original Alien where you don't know the people that well and they're just in this situation. But the original Alien, they've been on a mission that they're finishing, and then
Yeah.
they get diverted.
Yeah, you kind of need to.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you need to like. Maybe it would have been better if they were all already together or something like that in that canteen. The fact that we are only introduced to Rain and Andy first, and then we're brought to the rest of the crew, and then they mentioned their plan. I think
And then they go.
that was the bit that really cemented to me that like, oh, the main characters are Rain and Andy. They're going to be the only survivors here.
I don't know why when I saw the trailer, I don't have no idea why. I thought the Romulus station was like a prison. So I was kind of going into this movie thinking all these young people are going up to the Romulus prison station, and there are xenomorphs on the prison, almost like the company's doing experimentation or something. I have no idea why that was my plot in my head.
Yeah, I built up a whole fucking thing in my head as well. Like I had this whole expectation for Romulus and Remus station, which is something we can discuss at another time, I think. But
Right.
I did build up this setup that was going to be a bit more about like the lives of people in this world and the politics in this world. And I wasn't really expecting it to be just this giant space station with two separate names for no apparent reason, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
great movie.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a very straight horror movie, I guess, is really what it is. I agree with your criticisms about the station being so close to them. I do think that, and I have personally, I don't like literally how the film ends. I think other people will, because of the callback to Ripley being the final survivor of the Nostromo.
Yeah.
Right? But I felt this needed to do like where it is in the timeline. I needed this movie to do a Rogue One on it.
Just let everyone die.
I don't think there should have been any survivors because I feel like this is an isolated event where nobody comes out of it with any knowledge of any of this stuff. Because Rain and Andy learn more about the xenomorph than anyone in the first 4 Alien movies.
Yeah.
Pretty much. They learn where it comes from and everything. They learn how it's made.
However, I am very excited.
Like
And
it
also
made me
weary.
feel like there's going to be a sequel to this
Yeah.
movie.
I think they're probably leaving it open that there could possibly
Right.
be a sequel.
Right.
And that would I would be very excited to see where it could possibly go. I'm also very worried about where it can go because Disney. But the fact that she is heading to this planet, and I think the planet sounds very lovely. Obviously, because she paints a pretty picture of this place. She's going there with the black goo. So that has me excited, and I hope that he reintroduces fucking neomorphs into this thing because I would love to see what he would do with that shit.
Yeah, but right? She's not going to get there. If you make a sequel to this movie, something stops her from getting there.
Maybe.
And it's her trilogy goal to get to this planet, basically.
Yeah. But I just like the idea now that goo is taken with her, which gives us that reasoning, because it's one of the kind of convenience factors with especially the Sigourney Weaver films, is that she's always wrapped up in this shit, It's like this is such a big, huge galaxy, and And well, that's the other thing. Is like how often will people come across these things? And that's what I love about the black goo is that it can obviously introduce these type of creatures literally anywhere. So her taking this stuff with her wherever she's going to go, that's going to lead to some weird horrors. And I think we've just gotten a taste of the type of horrors we can experience from this particular director based on the end of that film.
Yes, it could go in weirder, wilder directions. And yes, if they make a sequel to this movie, I'll absolutely go see it. And then maybe the ending won't bother me so much. Just talk about it as a standalone movie within the franchise at the moment.
Yeah.
I guess I just
She
maybe
needed an
would've
entry.
liked
Do you know
nobody
what?
to make it out.
Like one of the things that I thought was a bit odd was that nearly every single person in this film got impaled somehow by the
Right,
by
yeah.
the stinger and the tail. Yet when she falls, she just gets catched by the tail.
Oh yes, it catches her. Yeah,
Yeah, I would have much preferred if that thing actually went straight into her, like whether that's into the shoulder or into the leg or something like that. So that way, she has to limp away in the rest of the movie.
right. It's one scene that seems plot convenient. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, the
yeah.
alien
It's like,
catches her
why did
rather
you
than
catch her? It almost felt a little bit heroic. It's like, is that a good guy xenomorph? Like, what the hell's going on? Is that her
Yeah,
pregnant
yeah.
friend after turning?
Jesus. That'd be terrible.
Yeah, I think that it would have been more in character for it to actually catch her with the thing, but obviously not catch her in anywhere that's fatal. But at least it adds something where it's like it's an extra obstacle, especially if it was the leg. She'd have to limp away. That'd be so terrifying.
What if, right? What if for the second one, right? She's getting away with she's going away to the Grava or whatever it's called with the black goo. And yes, she has to get stopped obviously on her journey, but she gets captured by predators. The
Yeah,
black
that's
goo
that
Oh,
then
bit.
goes
Jesus
on to
Christ.
predator.
Stop, Eric, stop.
Oh, the black goo with predator.
Oh my god, what does it make?
It's not
What I, see,
impossible, but
what I see happening with a sequel is that at some point he's going to rope David back in.
I would fucking love that shit. I would love that
Yeah,
shit.
I think if he's allowed to make more,
Mm.
which based on its success so far, he probably will.
Mm.
Given that he has honored the entire mythology, I think he will look at a plot line that hasn't been resolved
Mm.
and think, you know what? I think we could
finish
that.
it.
Yeah. But I think now it's time that we discuss where we're going to rank Alien Romulus in the Brothers Takes ranking. Now, if you want to hear why the movies are ranked where they're ranked, you need to go listen to the whole episode, really, which is our previous episode, to find out why they are. So we're not going to re-talk about why they are where they are now, but our current ranking before we introduce Romulus into it. Our current ranking for the Alien franchise, excluding AVP, by the way, is Alien, Alien Covenant, Aliens, Prometheus, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection. That is our current Brothers Take ranking, which is a shared ranking and not necessarily our individual ones. Where then would Alien Romulus rank in this franchise? So the question for the three of us now is, first of all, is Alien Romulus better than Alien Resurrection? Eric,
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
I would agree. I think it's definitely better than Alien Resurrection. Is Alien Romulus better than Alien 3?
Yes.
Yes.
I would agree. So far, so good. Okay. Is Alien Romulus better than Prometheus?
I would say yes.
Yes.
I would also say yes. We're doing pretty good. Is Alien Romulus better than Aliens?
I would say yes.
I would say no.
I'm also going to say no.
Okay.
So for the Brothers Takes ranking, I think that's where it's going to have to land. I think the problems that are there hold it back from being that bit better, but I do think it's better than the movies that we've just put it above in the franchise. So that would mean that our current ranking of the Alien franchise is now Alien, Alien Covenant, Aliens, Alien Romulus, Prometheus, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection.
Hmm.
As a shared ranking, I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason I would put Alien Romulus below like Aliens in that ranking would be just how much that film needs the other movies to succeed, or you know, like it's relying so heavily on what came before. If you get me,
Right.
like
Right,
there
yeah,
are some
yeah.
really interesting shit in here, but it's there's also it's borrowing a lot too. So it's like not everything is super creative there. I have it above Prometheus, but I would be kind of putting them kind of neck to neck. I think ultimately it's a better Alien movie than Prometheus, like fucking obviously. But if I could get like the big ideas of Prometheus with the xenomorph moments of Romulus, I have that's the perfect Alien movie for me. Is if I
Right.
could smash them two together.
And like the closest to that is Alien Covenant,
It's to some degree, yeah,
in a way,
yeah, yeah,
to what
yeah.
you just described.
Yeah, well, if I could just get the xenomorph from Romulus into the end of Covenant, what a movie!
Right. What a movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, out of curiosity, because you said for you, Alien Romulus would have gone higher than Aliens for you. Would it have gone higher than that?
No,
Okay. Okay.
no, 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 no. And I just put it there because, yeah, I would count it as more of a horror movie than Aliens.
Right, yeah.
And I think the aliens in this movie they do get riddled to fuck by a machine gun, sure, but that's just because of what Aliens established. But I like that it also goes through that thing of the alien from the first one is not dead. And I was like, yay, I got something right. And then also it just goes back to that weird sexual horror that Alien had as well at the end of it. So I think that's why I put it above Aliens.
It's more in
Yeah.
line with the OG. Yeah.
Mm.
It certainly is, and all the horror elements worked really well for me and were the highlight of the movie, really. The tension, the atmosphere, that all really worked. I think for me, the only reason I can't put it above Aliens, and the thing that's holding Alien Romulus back for me to get any higher, is that when I watch Aliens, everything in it is done so well for its time.
Hmm.
And when I watch Alien Romulus, I cannot say that everything in it is done well for its time.
Hmm.
I think,
Yeah.
and I think those stuff are really distracting, actually, even though so much of it is done incredibly well.
I wonder
So
will we ever
that's-
see like because there's always like new additions and touch ups and stuff on. Will he revisit this? This is a fairly common criticism for this particular movie. I think is Rook's face. I wonder will we ever see a newer edition where something's done with that. Whether that's to remove
Man.
or
I'd love that. I really
Yeah,
would.
yeah.
I think, and if they can, they should.
Yeah.
There was a moment where I don't want to go on about it too much, but honestly, I felt like, do you remember the movie Cats? Like, I'm talking that level of distraction. Like,
No,
there was a
I'm
moment where
I'm
the
right with
face
you.
looked so bad that
I'm
I
right
was just
with
like,
you.
what the fuck? Like,
Like I said, I would have, I could have done with less of. Nice
Right.
addition because he's both like, I mean, even his name is somewhat reminiscent of Bishop's. So, like, it's
Yeah,
like
the
this
chess name is
yeah,
cool.
it's a nice little touch between to all of them. But yeah, I think really like it's what I'm super excited about right now is the amount of discourse around Alien. Finally, I've seen a bunch of people like on YouTube and stuff do their rankings and discussions. People seeing the series for the first time. It's really
Yeah, great.
interesting getting a lot of takes on these films, and I'm also wondering because I'm starting to see it a little bit now. I've got a very close circle where I'm viewing, obviously, but I'd be interested to see will this give newfound love to the prequels based on how they're presented here.
maybe, hopefully.
That'd be nice.
It would be nice.
Yeah, I think to sum up, then Alien Romulus is a worthy addition to the Alien franchise. Great movie. Do go watch it if you've any interest in it at all. At this point, we've just spoiled the whole movie on you. So, but I'd love to know what other people think of the movie. And I also like I don't want the negatives to be the thing that stood out. Like I do think that the positives should stand out too. Like I do think this is like an incredibly well made horror movie, and I
Mm.
love it for that. But we want to hear from you guys. If you guys watch this YouTube, make sure you jump that in the comments to share your own thoughts on Alien Romulus. Maybe you agree with some of our points. Maybe you disagree with us. Please do let us know. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, ring the notification bell for all future content, and do let us know your personal ranking of the franchise now after you've seen Alien Romulus. How would you rank them? If you guys listen to us on audio platforms, you could also touch base on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and X at The Brothers Take, again, to give your take on Alien Romulus. Thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. This is Chris, Adam, and Eric of The Brothers Take signing out.